Most people over 60 have been told for decades that seafood is always a safe and healthy choice. Omega-3s, lean protein, heart health, that's the usual story. But new research is showing that some of the fish and shellfish seniors eat every week are quietly accelerating inflammation, joint damage, memory loss, and even dangerous infections. At the same time, some of the most protective seafoods for aging bodies are completely overlooked. A review of over 30 years of global seafood safety data revealed that certain species are far more harmful for older adults than most realize. The issues range from mercury buildup in brain tissue to antibiotic residues, to bacterial contamination that can overwhelm an immune system already weakened by age. And the scary part? Many of these risky choices are sold right alongside healthy options in grocery stores, without any warning labels. One man I treated in Florida was celebrating his anniversary and ordered a platter of raw oysters from warm coastal waters. Within hours, he had chills, fever, and strange blister-like lesions on his skin. Tests confirmed a Vibrio bacterial infection in his bloodstream, something far more dangerous than standard food poisoning. Because immune defenses decline with age, what might have been mild for a younger person became life-threatening for him. He survived after aggressive treatment but lost part of his foot to the infection. Now he tells everyone he knows to only eat oysters fully cooked. Large predatory fish can be just as dangerous, though the effects appear more slowly. These species sit high on the food chain, storing mercury from every smaller fish they consume. Over time, mercury accumulates in the brain and nervous system. One retired teacher I saw loved grilling king mackerel steaks twice a week. After months of this, she began dropping objects and forgetting familiar names. Blood tests revealed mercury levels more than twice the EPA's safety limit. She switched to lower mercury fish like sardines and wild salmon, but some of the nerve damage couldn't be reversed. Imported farmed shrimp from parts of Southeast Asia are another hidden hazard. Independent testing has repeatedly found banned antibiotics and chemical residues in frozen shrimp from poorly regulated farms. These ponds are often contaminated with animal waste, and to keep the shrimp alive, farmers dump cocktails of drugs into the water. For seniors, who already process toxins more slowly, those residues can suppress immune function and trigger long-term health problems. One veteran I treated developed a stubborn skin infection that resisted antibiotics. It turned out the shrimp he was eating several times a week contained compounds that made his body less able to fight bacteria. It took months of treatment to recover. Then there's farm-raised tilapia, one of the most misleading, healthy seafoods. While marketed as a lean, affordable protein, its omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is heavily imbalanced. This fuels systemic inflammation, the underlying driver of arthritis, heart disease, and even Alzheimer's. The feed often includes corn, soy, and even animal waste, which further contaminates the fish. One of my colleagues, a heart specialist, was shocked when her own blood tests showed extremely high inflammatory markers. She'd been eating tilapia 4 times a week, believing it was a safe choice. After eliminating it, her joint pain improved within months. But it's not all bad news. Just as there are seafoods you should avoid, there are others that can be eaten regularly to actively fight aging, protect memory, strengthen bones, and even rebuild cartilage. These are the 4 I recommend most often to my older patients. Pacific sardines may be humble, but they are nutritional powerhouses. They provide more calcium per ounce than milk, plenty of vitamin D for bone strength, and omega-3 levels that rival salmon, all with minimal mercury risk. Because sardines are low on the food chain and eat plankton, they don't accumulate heavy metals the way larger fish do. I had one patient with severe osteoporosis who began eating sardines twice a week instead of taking calcium pills that upset his stomach. Within 6 months, his bone density improved for the first time in years. Wild-caught Alaskan salmon is another game changer. Its bright color comes from astaxanthin, a potent antioxidant that crosses the blood-brain barrier to protect neurons. It's also a rich source of vitamin D and selenium, which help maintain muscle function and support the thyroid. In one case, a woman with early memory decline began eating wild salmon 4 times a week. After several months, her word recall improved, and her brain scans showed reduced inflammation. She calls it brain food and swears it's helped her stay independent. Green-lipped mussels from New Zealand are remarkable for joint health. They contain a rare type of omega-3 called ETA that reduces inflammation more effectively than standard fish oil. They're also packed with natural compounds that help rebuild cartilage. I've seen patients scheduled for joint replacement postpone surgery after adding these mussels to their diet. One man with crippling knee arthritis ate them daily for 6 weeks and reported a 75% reduction in pain, along with noticeable improvement in mobility. The most surprising option for many is wild Mediterranean octopus. It's extremely rich in taurine, copper, and high-quality protein, nutrients that support heart health, nerve function, and muscle maintenance. In small fishing villages, elders who eat octopus regularly have better grip strength, faster reflexes, and sharper memory scores compared to inland seniors. One retired psychiatrist I know started grilling octopus a few times a week after noticing memory lapses. A year later, her cognitive tests had improved, and she credits the change in her diet. The truth is, after 60, your body reacts more strongly to both harmful and beneficial foods. The wrong seafood can push inflammation higher, damage nerves, or overload your system with toxins. The right seafood can slow aging, repair tissues, and keep you active and mentally sharp for years longer. If you've been eating farm-raised tilapia, imported shrimp, large predatory fish, or raw warm-water oysters, it's time to rethink your choices. Replace them with low-mercury, nutrient-dense options like sardines, wild Alaskan salmon, green-lipped mussels, and wild octopus. Even adding just one of these into your weekly meals can make a difference you'll feel in your joints, in your energy, and in your clarity of thought. The ocean offers both medicine and poison. Knowing the difference is one of the simplest but most powerful health decisions you can make. Most people over 60 have been told for decades that seafood is one of the healthiest things they can eat. Doctors point to omega-3s for heart health, lean protein for muscles, and minerals for bones. But new research is revealing that the story is more complicated. Some of the seafood older adults eat every week may actually be speeding up inflammation, damaging joints, clouding memory, and even putting them at risk for dangerous infections. At the same time, a few overlooked seafoods can have the opposite effect, helping to keep the brain sharp, the body strong, and the years ahead more active. A global review of seafood safety data found that certain species are especially risky for people over 60 because of the way aging bodies process toxins and fight off infection. The problems range from bacteria that multiply rapidly in the bloodstream, to mercury that settles in the brain, to chemical residues from crowded industrial farms. And the unsettling part is that these risky choices are still sitting in the display case at grocery stores, often right next to truly beneficial options. I remember treating a man in Florida who was celebrating his anniversary with his wife. They ordered a platter of raw oysters from warm coastal waters, something they had enjoyed for decades. A few hours later, he began shivering uncontrollably, with a fever that climbed past 104 degrees. Strange, blood-filled blisters appeared on his legs. At the hospital, tests confirmed a Vibrio bacterial infection in his blood, the kind that thrives in warm water and can overwhelm an older immune system in a matter of hours. He survived thanks to aggressive treatment, but he lost part of his foot and spent months in rehabilitation. That single meal changed his life, and now he tells every friend he knows to never eat oysters raw past the age of 60. Some dangers build more slowly. Large predatory fish that feed on smaller fish accumulate mercury in their flesh. The longer they live, the more mercury they store. King mackerel is one of the worst offenders. A retired school teacher I saw loved grilling king mackerel steaks twice a week, thinking she was making a heart-healthy choice. Over several months, she developed tremors in her hands and began forgetting familiar names. Her daughter noticed she was stumbling more often. Blood work revealed mercury levels more than double the EPA's safe limit. She switched to lower mercury fish like sardines and wild salmon. But some of the nerve damage was permanent. Then there's the bargain bin frozen shrimp from certain overseas farms. Most people don't realize that over 90% of the shrimp sold in the United States comes from industrial ponds in countries with weak food safety regulations. In these overcrowded ponds, the water often becomes contaminated with waste, so farmers pour in a mix of antibiotics, pesticides, and other chemicals to keep the shrimp alive. Independent testing has found banned antibiotics in a majority of samples from these farms. For seniors whose livers and kidneys already work less efficiently, these residues can weaken immunity and increase the risk of stubborn, drug-resistant infections. One veteran I treated ate this imported shrimp almost daily because it was cheap protein. After months, he developed a skin infection that simply would not heal until we removed shrimp from his diet and started targeted treatment. And then there is farm-raised tilapia, one of the most deceptive, healthy options out there. On the surface, it's lean and mild-tasting, but the way it's raised turns it into an inflammatory food. The feed often contains corn, soy, and even waste from other animals. Its omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is so unbalanced that it promotes the very inflammation linked to arthritis, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. One of my colleagues, a respected cardiologist, ate tilapia several times a week, believing it was helping her heart. Over time, her joints ached so badly she could barely hold surgical instruments. Blood tests revealed inflammation markers far above normal. She cut tilapia completely and replaced it with wild fish, and within 6 months, her pain and swelling dropped dramatically. But the news isn't all bad. Just as there are seafoods that quietly harm older adults, there are others that can help reverse damage, protect memory, and even rebuild strength. These are the 4 I recommend most often for my patients over 60. Pacific sardines are a nutritional powerhouse in a small package. They provide high-quality protein, calcium for bone strength, vitamin D to improve calcium absorption, and omega-3 fatty acids to fight inflammation, all with very low mercury content. They're also easy to store, affordable, and versatile. A retired male carrier I treated had worsening osteoporosis despite prescription medication. He started eating sardines twice a week instead of taking calcium pills that upset his stomach. 6 months later, his bone density had improved for the first time in years, and his energy returned. Wild-caught Alaskan salmon is another essential. Its deep red color comes from astaxanthin, a powerful antioxidant that can cross into brain tissue and protect neurons from damage. It also delivers vitamin D, selenium, and the right balance of omega-3s for heart and brain health. I worked with a woman in her early 70s who had been diagnosed with mild cognitive decline. She began eating wild salmon several times a week. Within months, she was remembering names more easily and no longer losing her train of thought mid-sentence. Brain scans showed reduced inflammation, and her family noticed the difference before she did. Green-lipped mussels from New Zealand are my go-to recommendation for patients with chronic joint pain. They contain a unique type of omega-3 that's far more effective at reducing inflammation than typical fish oil. They also provide natural compounds that help rebuild cartilage. One man I treated was just weeks away from knee replacement surgery because arthritis had made walking unbearable. He began eating green-lipped mussels daily and, within 6 weeks, reported a 75% drop in pain. He canceled the surgery, regained mobility, and now swears by them. The final one is the most surprising: wild Mediterranean octopus. It's loaded with taurine, copper, and high-quality protein, all critical for heart function, nerve communication, and muscle strength. In coastal villages where octopus is part of the regular diet, older adults consistently score higher on tests of memory, balance, and grip strength compared to those living inland. One retired psychiatrist I know began adding grilled octopus to her meals 3 times a week after noticing mild memory lapses. A year later, her test results had improved, and brain scans showed healthier tissue in the very areas linked to memory and learning. She credits this change, along with staying active, for keeping her mind sharp. After 60, your body reacts more strongly to both harmful and beneficial foods. The wrong seafood can inflame your joints, dull your thinking, and slowly drain your energy. The right seafood can rebuild tissue, sharpen your mind, and keep you active for years longer. If you've been eating farm-raised tilapia, imported shrimp, large predatory fish, or raw oysters from warm waters, it's worth rethinking your choices. Replacing them with nutrient-rich, low-contaminant options like sardines, wild Alaskan salmon, green-lipped mussels, and wild octopus is one of the simplest, most powerful steps you can take for your health. Even starting with one change this week can lead to better energy, less pain, and clearer thinking. The ocean offers both medicine and poison. The difference is knowing which is which. And after 60, that knowledge could add years of independence, strength, and joy to your life.